The afternoon sun beat down on the dusty streets of Guagada, a bustling town nestled deep in West Africa, where the marketplace smelled of sweat spices and fresh tomatoes. Children in faded school uniforms weaved through motorcycles and fruit stalls, clutching notebooks like prized treasures. Among them was a boy named Matthew, no older than 12, trudging along the roadside, his school bag dragging behind him, and his face soaked with tears that sparkled under the heat like droplets of glass. He had just come from school, but this was no ordinary day. In his trembling pocket, there should have been a folded note worth 5,000 naira, his school fees. His stepmother had handed it to him that morning with strict orders: "Pay your fees and bring back the receipt. If you come home without it, don't bother entering my house." Her voice still echoed in his ears like a curse. But now, as he frantically patted his empty pockets again, reality was sinking in. The money was gone, lost. Perhaps it had fallen while he was running to catch a bus. Or maybe someone had picked it from his trousers when he wasn't looking. He didn't know. All he knew was that it was gone. Matthew's tiny frame shook with every sob as he walked along the dusty path, his eyes blinded with tears. Passers-by looked at him with mild curiosity, but did nothing. In a place where everyone had their own burdens, a crying child was just another background sound. From her humble roadside stall shaded by a tattered umbrella, Madame Patricia watched him. She was a widow in her late 40s, her face lined with the years she had spent selling tomatoes and peppers under the scorching sun to feed herself and her daughter. Her baskets were half full today, business slow as always, and her stomach empty since morning. But as she wiped sweat from her forehead with the edge of her wrapper, she noticed the boy. Something in his broken sobs pulled at her heart. "My child," she called gently, stepping out from behind her stall. "Why are you crying like this?" Startled, Matthew turned to look at the woman. Her eyes were kind. Her voice wasn't loud or harsh. It was soft, like water running over stone. He sniffled and wiped his nose with the back of his hand. "Mama, I've lost my school fees," he whispered. "I've searched everywhere. I can't find it." Madame Patricia's heart tightened. "School fees, how much?" 5,000 naira, he replied, voice cracking. "I live with my father and stepmother. My father lost his job, and now it's my stepmother who feeds us. She said if I come back without the receipt, she will beat me. She might even throw my father out of the house." Patricia blinked rapidly to stop her own tears. She understood what it meant to be poor, to be helpless. She had felt that hunger. She had seen her own daughter go to sleep with an empty stomach. And yet in this moment, looking at this child, all she saw was fear and innocence. She reached under her stall and pulled out an old biscuit tin, her makeshift bank. She opened it slowly, revealing a few worn notes. That was her entire earning for the day. All she had. She hesitated only for a breath. Then, with a trembling hand, she picked out the money and pressed it into Matthew's palm. "Here," she said, her voice steady. "Take it. Go pay your fees." Matthew's eyes widened. "Mama, are you sure this is your money?" "Yes, my child. It's my last, but it's okay. Be serious in school. Don't follow bad friends. One day you will be great. Promise me." He clutched the money tightly, overwhelmed. "I promise, Mama. I promise I will make you proud. I will never forget you." Patricia smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. She gently placed her hand on his head and whispered a prayer. "May God lift you. May you never know shame." Without waiting, Matthew turned and ran toward his school. The sun was still hot, but in his heart there was a newfound warmth that shielded him. As he reached the school gate just before it closed, he looked back and whispered to himself, "God bless that woman." Later that evening, Matthew walked slowly into the compound of their small rented house. His father sat on a wooden bench outside, his shoulders slumped in defeat. He looked up as Matthew approached. "Matthew, did you pay the school fees?" Matthew nodded. "Yes, Daddy." He handed over the receipt. His father exhaled deeply. "That's one less problem." But Matthew looked down, unable to meet his father's eyes. "Daddy, I have to tell you something." His father's brow furrowed. "What is it?" "I lost the money," Matthew whispered. I don't know how. I kept it safe, but it was gone. I cried. I was scared. I didn't know what to do." His father's face tightened with worry and anger. "Matthew, do you know what that money meant? Your stepmother warned us. If we didn't pay, she said she would stop feeding us. She might even send us out." Matthew's lips quivered. "I'm sorry, Daddy. I didn't mean to. I thought about not coming home, but then someone helped me." "Who?" his father asked quietly. Matthew smiled softly. "A woman. She sells tomatoes by the roadside. She saw me crying and asked what was wrong. I told her everything. She gave me 5,000 naira. She said it was her last, but she didn't mind. Her name is Madame Patricia." For a moment, silence fell between them. His father sat down slowly. "A stranger helped you." His voice broke. "We have nothing, and someone with even less gave you her last." "Yes, Daddy. She saved me. We must go and thank her." His father nodded, blinking back tears. "We will. This kind of kindness, it's rare." But when Matthew and his father arrived the next day, at the same roadside spot, the entire row of stalls was gone. Government bulldozers had come through early that morning. Everything had been cleared. The wooden stall, the baskets, the tomatoes, gone. All that remained was dust, debris, and silence. Matthew looked around helplessly. "Daddy, this is where she sat." "I heard the news," his father said. "They cleared all roadside traders today. She must be gone. But how do we find her now?" Nobody knew. There were no signs, no name, no clue. The woman who had given everything was gone, and the boy who had promised to repay her stood staring at an empty lot, his heart heavy. As they walked back home, the sun began to set again, casting a golden light across the sky. The wind was soft, almost like a whisper. And in that fading light, Matthew made a vow again, not with tears this time, but with quiet strength. "I will find her one day, Daddy," he said. "I don't care how long it takes. I will find Madame Patricia. I will bless her. I will give her everything she gave me and more." His father placed a hand on his shoulder. "And I believe you, son." What they didn't know was that at that very moment on the other side of town, Madame Patricia was sitting beside her daughter Agatha on the roadside curb, clutching the only basket of tomatoes she had managed to save from the government demolition. Her stall had been destroyed, and as if fate wasn't cruel enough, she had returned home to find her landlord throwing out their belongings. "You haven't paid rent for a year," the landlord had said coldly. "You and your daughter can sleep in the street." And they did. That night, Patricia and Agatha lay on the hard ground under the stars, with their few clothes stuffed into a sack and a thin wrapper pulled over their bodies. Patricia held her daughter close, whispering, "I don't regret helping that boy. If I had to choose again, I'd still give him my last money. I just need a miracle now." And though the night was long and cold, and their future uncertain in her heart, Madame Patricia held on to faith, to dignity, and to a hope that one day her kindness would not be forgotten. The morning after sleeping on the bare ground felt like waking up inside a nightmare that had decided to stay. Patricia's bones ached from the cold earth. Her wrapper, now dust-streaked, clung tightly to her body as she sat up and looked around. Her daughter Agatha was still curled beside her, her head resting on a sack of clothes, her face peaceful despite the misery. The sun had barely risen, but already the streets buzzed with the hurried footsteps of people beginning another day. Patricia stretched her back and winced. There was no stall to tend to today, no tomatoes to arrange, and no hope waiting back at the house they once called home. Agatha stirred, blinking into the light. "Mama, I'm here," Patricia whispered, brushing her daughter's cheek. "We have to get up. We can't stay here." Agatha sat up, rubbing her arms. "Where will we go?" Patricia didn't have an answer. She had spent most of the night thinking about it. Every option seemed like a dead end. But one name kept surfacing in her mind, like a lone star in a dark sky. Sister Na. A friend from many years ago, someone she hadn't seen in ages, but who had once sworn, "If you ever need help, come find me." Patricia stood and looked down at her daughter. "We'll go to the next city," she said firmly. "My friend Na lives there. Maybe, just maybe, she can help us." Without questioning, Agatha nodded. She trusted her mother more than anyone in the world. Patricia used the last 800 naira she had hidden in the hem of her wrapper to buy 2 bus tickets. It was enough to get them to the neighboring town where Sister Na lived. They carried only what they could hold, a sack of clothes, a small basin, and their dignity. The bus was old and rickety, the windows stuck open, so the wind slapped at their faces as it sped along the cracked road. Agatha held her mother's hand tightly, her eyes scanning the blur of trees, huts, and motorcycles passing by. Patricia, meanwhile, sat in silence, whispering quiet prayers between heartbeats. "Lord, don't let us reach there in shame. Let my sister remember me." They arrived around noon. The sun was merciless, the air thick with heat. Patricia led the way through streets she barely recognized, until finally they stood before a gray gate with peeling blue paint. She hesitated before knocking. What if Na was no longer there? What if she didn't remember her, but she had no choice? She knocked. Seconds passed. Then the gate creaked open, and a familiar face appeared, older, fuller, but still unmistakable. "Patricia," the woman gasped. What happened to you?" Tears filled Patricia's eyes before she could speak. "Na, come in. Come in, my sister." Na threw the gate wide and pulled Patricia and Agatha inside. The yard was quiet, filled with potted plants and a plastic chair under a mango tree. They entered the house and Na gave them water and a place to sit before finally asking, "Talk to me. What happened?" Patricia spoke in broken bursts, the pain still raw. The demolished stall, the eviction, the cold ground, the tears. Na listened, her expression slowly shifting from shock to anger to compassion. When Patricia finished, Na sat back and shook her head in disbelief. "You're lucky, my sister," she said finally. Patricia frowned. "Lucky?" Na smiled. "Yes. Do you know today is my last day in this house? My husband and I are relocating to the capital tomorrow. I just packed everything this morning. I was about to return the key to the landlord." Patricia stared at her. Na leaned forward. "What I'm saying is, stay here. The house is paid for till the end of the year. I'll tell the landlord to change the name. You can take over the rent when it expires." Patricia gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Na, you're giving me your house?" "Yes, you need it more than I do." Patricia dropped to her knees. "Thank you, God will bless you. Now you don't know what you've done for me." Na knelt and pulled her up. "We're sisters. You helped me when my husband had nothing. Let me return the favor." But Na wasn't done. She disappeared into a small room and returned with a brown envelope. "There's some emergency money here. About 30,000 naira. Use it to start a new stall. And send Agatha back to school if she hasn't finished yet." Patricia broke down again. Agatha stood in awe. Her mother had lost everything in a day, and now, in another day, God had restored it through the hands of a friend. That evening, they lit a small lantern and sat together in the empty house. The walls were bare, the floor cold, but their hearts were full. Patricia turned to her daughter and whispered, "We're home." In the days that followed, Patricia returned to what she knew best. She bought baskets of fresh tomatoes from the market and began selling again, this time from a corner space near the main road. Business was slow but steady. She used the money wisely, food savings a little kept aside for emergencies. Agatha, now 21, helped her mother after graduation, while continuing to search for a job. She had studied business administration and graduated with honors, but no job came. Still, she didn't complain. She woke up every morning tied on her apron and sat under the sun with her mother arranging tomatoes and calling out to customers. "Mama," she would say, "I believe our story will change one day." "I know," Patricia would reply with a tired but hopeful smile. "God is watching." And one day, as if the heavens had finally nodded, their story began to change. It was a bright Saturday morning. Patricia had gone to the central market to restock tomatoes, leaving Agatha at their usual stall. She sat on a wooden bench, fanning herself with a piece of cardboard, when a sleek black car parked a few steps away. The door opened, and a well-dressed man in a clean shirt and dark glasses stepped out. He walked over with quiet confidence and stopped in front of her. "Good afternoon," he said with a gentle voice. "Good afternoon, sir," Agatha replied, standing politely. "I came from a friend's daughter's wedding nearby. I want to buy some tomatoes to cook stew." Agatha nodded and began selecting the freshest ones for him. As she placed them into a bag, curiosity sparked within her. She looked up and asked shyly, "Sir, if you don't mind me asking, don't you have someone to cook for you?" The man chuckled. "Good question. I live alone. My only son is often abroad on business. My cook recently relocated." Agatha smiled. "That must be hard." He nodded. "That's why I'm looking for someone honest and good at cooking. And I don't just mean cooking, I mean trustworthy." He paused, then added, "I like your spirit. You speak well. You seem kind." "What's your name?" "Agatha," she replied. "Agatha." He smiled. "I'm Mr. Benson, a businessman. Would you consider working for me as a live-in cook? I'll pay you well." Agatha's eyes widened. "Sir, really?" "Yes. Of course, only if you're interested." She hesitated. "Sir, I live in a different town." Mr. Benson shrugged. "That's fine. I have space. You can visit your mother regularly. Think about it. Here's my number. Call me if you decide." He handed her his card and left. As the car pulled away, Agatha stared at the number in her hand. Her heart pounded. A job. A new chance. Hope. When her mother returned, she shared everything. Patricia listened in silence, then frowned. "You want to move into a man's house to cook, Agatha? The world is dangerous." "Mama," he was respectful. "He didn't even ask for my number. He told me to take my time." Patricia sighed deeply. "My heart is worried. But if you feel peace, then go. But promise me, shine your eyes." "I promise, Mama. This might be the breakthrough we've prayed for." The next morning, Agatha stood outside the house with her small bag. Patricia hugged her tightly. "God will go with you. Be wise, and call me when you arrive." Agatha nodded, eyes wet. "I will, Mama. I'll make you proud." As the bus pulled away, Patricia stood watching until it disappeared into the distance. Then she turned to the sky and whispered, "God, if this is from you, let it work. If not, block the road." And as the sun climbed higher over the red rooftops and dusty streets, destiny too began to stir. The neighborhood was quiet, lined with tall trees and well-kept fences. As the car pulled into the compound, Agatha leaned closer to the window, her heart beating faster with each turn of the wheel. She had never seen a house so large, so beautiful. It was painted white with cream accents, and flowers bloomed along the walkway like they had been waiting for her arrival. A man in a neat shirt waited at the gate and opened the door as soon as she arrived. "Are you Miss Agatha?" he asked with a smile. "Yes," she replied, voice trembling with a mix of nerves and awe. "Please come in. My boss is expecting you." The man led her through a wide entrance past a sparkling tiled floor and into a hallway that smelled of lavender and furniture polish. At the end of the corridor, a door opened, and Mr. Benson emerged with a warm smile. "Agatha, welcome," he said, extending his hand. "Come in. Make yourself at home. This will be your new place." Agatha nodded politely, her lips struggling to form words. "Thank you, sir. Your home is very beautiful." Mr. Benson laughed lightly. "It's just a house. You're the one bringing life into it now." He led her to a cozy room with a soft bed, wooden wardrobe, and a mirror that glowed under the morning light. "You'll stay here. The kitchen is 2 doors down. Don't worry, just be yourself and cook good food." Agatha smiled, her shoulders relaxing a little. "Yes, sir. I'll do my best." That same evening, she began her work. She cleaned the kitchen like it was a sanctuary, and then made a simple but fragrant meal, jollof rice with fried fish. As the aroma filled the house, the staff began murmuring about the new girl and her magical hands. Mr. Benson took a spoonful of her food, leaned back in his chair, and smiled. "Ah, Agatha, I think you're the best thing to happen to this house since my cook left." Agatha laughed softly, feeling a sense of ease she hadn't known in months. 2 weeks passed smoothly. Agatha adapted quickly. She had her own rhythm now, waking early, cleaning the kitchen, planning meals, and humming softly as she worked. She missed her mother deeply, but she also felt something stirring inside her, a quiet sense of pride. She was doing something for herself and for her mother. Her first salary had arrived, and she had already bought a wrapper and a pair of soft slippers to send home. One Sunday afternoon, as she stirred a pot of agouti soup, the front gate opened quietly. No one had told her anyone was coming. She heard footsteps down the corridor, then the soft thud of a suitcase being set down. Then a voice, deep, calm, and unfamiliar, echoed from the doorway of the kitchen. "Good afternoon." Agatha turned quickly. A young man stood there, tall, handsome, dressed in a casual white shirt and navy blue trousers. He carried himself with quiet confidence, but smiled like a boy who hadn't quite learned how to be intimidating. "Good afternoon, sir," she said, slightly flustered. "I'm Matthew. You must be the new cook." "Yes, sir. My name is Agatha." "Nice to meet you, Agatha," he said, walking forward slightly. "Whatever you're cooking smells like home." She laughed shyly. "Thank you, sir." He lingered a little, watching her work, then nodded and left. But that moment lingered like the scent of her stew. That night in his room, Matthew stared at the ceiling. He had traveled to many cities, attended business meetings, worn suits worth more than cars. But something about Agatha's smile, her calm presence in the kitchen, stirred something in him he hadn't felt in years. In the days that followed, he found himself wandering into the kitchen more often. "Is the rice ready, well?" he would ask, even though lunch had just ended. "Agatha, can you teach me how to boil water?" he'd say with a grin. She would roll her eyes, laugh, and reply, "You don't need to know how to boil water. You have me." And he'd respond, "Exactly. That's why I keep coming back." He began buying small things for her, an apron with her name in gold letters, a cooking timer shaped like a tomato. But more than the gifts, it was the way he watched her, the way he listened when she spoke, the way he smiled like she was the only thing in the room worth looking at. Agatha noticed. She began humming more often, adjusting her hair, before he entered, checking her reflection in the mirror above the stove. Her heart started racing when she heard his footsteps. She began serving him first, adding a little extra meat to his plate. But nothing was said aloud. They danced around it like two people afraid to break something too beautiful to name. One Friday evening, as the orange sky began to settle over the city, Mr. Benson entered the kitchen and found Agatha humming to herself, chopping onions and swaying a little. "You look happy," he said. She blushed. "I'm just grateful, sir." Mr. Benson smiled knowingly. "Good. You're a blessing to this house." The next morning, he handed her a small brown envelope. "Go and visit your mother this weekend. I'm sure she misses you." Agatha's face lit up. "Thank you, sir." She packed groceries, wrapped the gift she had bought with her salary, and left with a heart full of anticipation. At home, Patricia opened the door and immediately pulled her daughter into a tight embrace. "My daughter, look at you. You're glowing. God has truly done it." Agatha laughed, spinning in her wrapper. "Mama, I missed you." Inside, they sat together eating yam porridge. Then Agatha leaned forward, eyes twinkling. "Mama, I have to tell you something." Patricia raised an eyebrow. "What is it?" "There's someone, Mr. Benson's son. His name is Matthew." Patricia froze. "What about him?" Agatha smiled shyly. "He's young, kind, respectful, and I think I'm falling in love with him." Patricia stared. "Agatha, you're falling in love." "Yes, Mama. I haven't told him. I don't even know how he feels. But the way he looks at me, the way he makes me laugh, I can't explain it." Patricia's eyes softened. She reached for her daughter's hand. "Love is a beautiful thing, my child. But look well. Don't rush." "I'm not rushing," Agatha said. "I'm just hoping." "Then pray," Patricia whispered. "If it's from God, no one can stop it." Agatha nodded. "Thank you, Mama. I will." Back at the house, Matthew sat in the garden staring at the flowers. His father joined him holding a mug of tea. "Dad," Matthew said, "I'm in love with Agatha." Mr. Benson smiled knowingly. "I knew it." "You did? Son, I see how you look at her. The way you find excuses to hang around the kitchen." Matthew chuckled, then grew serious. "I want to marry her. I just don't know how to say it. She's not like other girls. She's simple, real. I don't want to scare her, Mr. Benson leaned forward. "If you truly love her, speak your heart. You may be surprised." The next day, Agatha returned from visiting her mother. As she walked into the compound, Matthew came out to meet her, took her bag, and smiled. "Welcome back." "Thank you, Matthew," she replied, remembering his request to drop the "sir." "Can we talk?" he asked gently. "Of course." He led her to the garden, now glowing under the soft sunlight. They sat on a bench, the flowers swaying around them. "Agatha," he began, his voice steady but low. "I know this might sound strange, but I've kept it inside too long." She held her breath. "I'm in love with you. From the day I saw you in the kitchen, you've stolen my peace. I don't want to just admire you. I want to build something with you. Marry me." Agatha gasped softly. "Please," he added, "don't say no." Tears welled in her eyes. "Matthew, I've loved you too, from the beginning. I just couldn't say it first." He blinked. "You did?" "Yes." He reached for her hands. "Then say yes." "I will," she whispered. "Yes, Matthew, I will marry you." As they embraced, the breeze around them danced like the beginning of a blessing, and the future unfolded quietly, wrapped in the warmth of two hearts finally speaking the same truth. Saturday morning came with the promise of something more than just sunshine. Matthew stood before the mirror, adjusting his collar, the air heavy with quiet excitement. Beside him, Agatha was dressed in a simple yet elegant gown, her hair braided neatly, her eyes reflecting both joy and nervous anticipation. Today wasn't just any visit. They were going to see Patricia, Agatha's mother. But for Matthew, this visit carried a weight he couldn't yet explain. As they stepped into the taxi that would take them to the modest compound, Matthew felt something shift inside his chest. "Are you nervous?" Agatha asked playfully, holding his hand. Matthew chuckled, his voice calm but honest. "A little. I've never met someone's mother as a fiancé before." Agatha smiled, squeezing his hand. "Just be yourself. She'll love you." The ride was short, but for Matthew it felt long. Memories he couldn't quite grasp flickered in and out. Dusty roads, a crying boy, a soft voice. But he brushed them aside as they reached the house. It was humble with cracked walls and a wooden door that creaked softly when Agatha pushed it open. Inside, the air was filled with the scent of palm oil and freshly washed fabric. They sat on a brown couch, the cushions worn but clean. "Is your mother home?" Matthew asked, his eyes scanning the small room. "She stepped out to buy something," Agatha replied. "But she'll be back soon." A few minutes later, the door opened and Patricia entered carrying a nylon bag. She paused when she saw them. "My daughter," she said, surprised. "You didn't tell me you were coming today." Agatha stood and hugged her. "I wanted to surprise you, Mama, and I brought someone with me." Patricia turned to Matthew, who stood and greeted her respectfully. "Good afternoon, Ma," he said, bowing slightly. "Good afternoon, my son," she replied, looking him up and down. "You didn't tell me your visitor was this fine," she teased, laughing gently. But as she turned away, something about her movement, the sound of her voice triggered something deep inside Matthew. He took a cautious step forward. "Ma, please, what's your name?" Patricia blinked, confused. "Patricia," she said. "Why?" Matthew's breath caught in his throat. His eyes moistened. Do you remember a little boy years ago, crying on the roadside? He had lost his school fees. He told you everything. You were selling tomatoes. You gave him 5,000 naira, your last money. You said, "Be serious in school. Don't follow bad friends. One day you will be great." Patricia stood frozen, her lips slightly parted. "Wait," she whispered. "Are you that boy?" Matthew nodded slowly. "Yes, Ma. I am that boy. I never forgot you. You changed my life." He dropped to his knees before her. "You didn't just help me. You saved me. Because of your kindness, I am who I am today. I searched for you, Ma. I prayed to find you, and I never imagined the woman I fell in love with would be your daughter." Patricia's knees gave way as she sank onto the couch. Tears ran freely down her cheeks. "God, you mean all this time? You're the boy." Agatha gasped, eyes wide with realization. "Mama, I didn't know either. Not until now." Matthew reached for Patricia's hands. "Ma, you gave me your last. Today I want to give you my best. I want to marry your daughter. I want to honor you." take care of you. Not because I feel indebted, but because you are family. You always were." Patricia sobbed, her shoulders trembling. "See how God works. I never expected this. I only gave what I had, and now God has returned it, pressed down, shaken together, and running over." She pulled Matthew into an embrace, then reached for her daughter. "Agatha, you didn't tell me you were in love with an angel." Agatha laughed through tears. "I didn't know he was the boy you helped. I just loved him for who he is now." Patricia kissed her forehead. "Then this is destiny. You were meant to find each other." The rest of the day passed in a whirlwind of emotion and gratitude. They sat together, shared a meal, and told stories, some old, some new, all threaded together by a divine hand that had clearly orchestrated every step. The next morning, Matthew stood outside Patricia's house, a quiet smile on his face as a car pulled up. 4 men stepped out carrying bags of rice, cartons of food cooking oil, and 2 brightly wrapped gifts. "What's all this?" Patricia asked in confusion. Matthew turned to her with a smile. "This is just the beginning, Mama." One of the men handed her a clean brown envelope. Patricia opened it slowly, her hands trembling. Inside was a check for 10 million naira, with her name boldly written across the front. Her mouth fell open. "Matthew, what is this?" "This," he said gently, "is for everything you lost, for every meal you skipped, for the tomato stall that was torn down, for the rent you couldn't pay, for the last 5,000 naira you gave to a stranger without asking for anything in return. You deserve more than this." She couldn't speak. She just wept. But Matthew wasn't done. He handed her a small envelope. Inside was a set of house keys and title papers. "This," he said, "is your new home. 3 bedrooms, fully furnished, in your name. You'll never pay rent again." Patricia dropped to her knees. "God, you remembered me. After all these years, you remembered." Agatha helped her up, holding her tightly. "Mama, this is your reward. You never stopped believing. God never forgot." A few weeks later, Matthew and Agatha were married in a garden filled with flowers and sunlight. It was a simple wedding, but it glowed with meaning. Agatha wore a flowing white dress, and Matthew couldn't take his eyes off her. Mr. Benson sat proudly beside Patricia, both of them beaming with joy. As the ceremony ended and the couple danced their first dance, Matthew leaned in and whispered, "I told you I don't waste time." Agatha smiled, eyes glistening. "And I told you I loved you from the first day." Matthew looked across the crowd and saw Patricia laughing and clapping joyfully. He smiled and whispered again, "She gave me her last. Today I've given her my best." The rain had just stopped. The smell of fresh earth floated in the air, mingling with the gentle cries of 2 newborns from the room upstairs. Inside the grand home that once housed only quiet and shadows, now echoed the tender melody of life. Patricia stood by the window, holding one of her grandsons close to her chest, his tiny fingers curling around hers, like he had already known her in another life. Mr. Benson cradled the other child in his arms, his face glowing with pride as he gently bounced the baby in rhythm. "My daughter," Patricia whispered, "God has doubled your blessing." Downstairs, Matthew sat beside Agatha, brushing her hair back from her forehead, as she rested, her skin flushed with exhaustion, but her eyes calm and filled with peace. "You've made me the happiest man alive," he whispered. Agatha smiled faintly, her voice weak but steady. "And you've made me believe in miracles." The room was quiet for a moment, save for the cooing of their babies upstairs and the soft hum of wind drifting through the windows. Everything about that morning felt sacred, like time itself had paused to witness this chapter in their lives unfold. The weeks passed in quiet joy. The twins were named Emmanuel and Elijah, names chosen with purpose, gifts of grace and strength, reflections of the journey that had brought their parents together. The home that once welcomed Agatha as a cook now held her as a queen. The same kitchen where she had first stirred a pot of egusi soup now echoed with her laughter, her husband's voice reading bedtime stories, and the giggles of her sons crawling across the polished tiles. Patricia had long since moved into the new 3-bedroom house gifted to her. It was her sanctuary now, where she hosted women from her former roadside community, offering them meals and wisdom, and reminding them that no act of kindness is ever wasted. In the back garden, she grew tomatoes again, not for selling, but as a tribute. She called the small plot Matthew's Corner. She would water those plants every morning and smile to herself, remembering the boy who had once wept in the dust and now stood as her son-in-law, a pillar in the community and a blessing to her family. But Matthew had not forgotten his promise. One day, he had said, "I will help children like I was helped." With Agatha's support and Mr. Benson's encouragement, he founded a foundation in Patricia's name, the Patricia Grace Initiative. It began as a scholarship program for children from disadvantaged homes, especially those who had lost one or both parents. Soon, it expanded into free meal programs for schools in rural areas, mentorship workshops, and even a shelter for women who had been evicted like Patricia once was. Every year on the same date, the day he had received that life-saving 5,000 Naira, Matthew would host a special event. He would take the stage, hold the microphone with reverence, and say, "Everything you see here started with one tomato seller's last note. She had nothing, but she gave me everything, and now I give in her name." The audience would rise in applause, but Patricia would always sit quietly at the back, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief, too overwhelmed to speak. Agatha, now a businesswoman in her own right, never stopped cooking. Not because she had to, but because she loved the way her sons clapped when they smelled her stew, or how Matthew still peeked into the kitchen and said, "Is the rice ready?" with a grin that never aged. She had launched a small catering brand, Agatha's Taste, which began with family recipes and soon became the talk of the region. But she never forgot her roots. She hired women like her mother once was. Street sellers, widows, struggling mothers, and taught them not only to cook, but to manage and own something for themselves. One particular afternoon, as the sun cast a golden hue over the city, Agatha and Matthew sat under the large tree in their backyard. Their sons played with toy trucks nearby. Patricia joined them, holding a photo album filled with pictures of their wedding, of the twins' first steps of the day. The foundation opened its doors. She turned a page and paused at an old photo. It was a picture of her stall before the government had demolished it. The umbrella in the background. The tomatoes stacked in shaky baskets. A younger Patricia, sunburnt and smiling. "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had kept that 5,000 Naira," she said softly. Matthew leaned forward, his voice steady. "You wouldn't have been wrong to keep it. But because you gave it, I found purpose. That's how powerful kindness is." Patricia smiled, placing her hand over his. "And because you remembered, God gave me double." Later that evening, as they walked through the garden, Emmanuel pointed to a star in the sky. "Mama, what's that?" he asked. Agatha crouched beside him, brushing his cheek. "That's a star, my love." "What's it doing there?" he asked innocently. Matthew joined them, lifting Elijah in his arms. "It's watching," he said. "Just like God did when your grandmother helped a boy and changed all our lives." And so the story that began with a cry beneath the scorching African sun ended in the warmth of a home filled with love, legacy, and light. From a roadside act of mercy to a multi-generational blessing, Patricia's gift had not only rewritten one boy's fate, it had rewritten history. It had birthed a dynasty rooted in compassion, flourishing in love. And as the stars blinked above and the wind carried laughter through the trees, it became clear some blessings begin as burdens, and some miracles begin with just one act of kindness.